Hey listeners, this week I had the awesome opportunity to sit down and chat with Lauren Rainbow. Lauren is an internationally known psychic medium, author, spiritual teacher, and sacred travel guide. She co-authored a best-selling deck with Psychic Medium John Holland called the Mediumship Training Deck that was released in August of 2020 through Hay House Publications. Just a little side note, I actually own this deck and I love it. I have also had the pleasure of working with her a few times, both in her home state and mine, and the honor to call her friend. So without further ado, let's get this started.
You're listening to the Spiritual Banks Podcast.
Hey guys, I'm here with the Lauren Rainbow. She's a friend, but she's also so much more than that. And so I'm just going to pass it over to you, sweet lady. Why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Oh, well, thank you for having me today, Nicole. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm Lauren Rainbow, as you said. I am a psychic medium, a sacred travel guide, which I think is going to be the meat of what we're going to talk about today. Oh, yeah. And a spiritual teacher. I kind of call myself a spiritual mutt. I've done it all from Reiki to mediumship to healing to, sacred journeys, medicines, you name it. I've done it all. And I love exploring and being a spiritual seeker as well as a spiritual teacher.
That's
so it's like a little nutshell.
You're the best sauce. You got the best of all of you.
I try. Well, I've learned on the journey, I think part of what we're doing as seekers and spiritual beings, right, is just exploring and taking what works. And kind of, I think the part of the essence about being spiritual is kind of finding your own path and your own way through this and just seeking Absolutely. And putting those little pieces in your little toolbox and have fun building from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I can't remember the year that I met you, but I do remember I had just come back. I literally flew from Heathrow to Dallas and then from Dallas into maybe it was like New Hampshire or Massachusetts. And then I stayed with a friend there and went to the workshop in Maine that you were doing with John Holland. And I think that's the first year maybe that he did it. So yeah,
I think you're right.
Like a time ago.
And I think we electronically connected before that, or virtually connected. But I remember when we physically met, it was in York, Maine. I think it was year one or two that he had done that, which has been almost at least 10 years.
That's crazy. That's just crazy. But yeah, it makes sense because Sky is 6. And I remember you came down when I was just about to announce that I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And,
and you had the baby pop. I remember we went to bed and then woke up the next morning and there was a little presence more clear.
There was the little bump. Yeah. It's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. Well, I know you, your work, mainly your mediumship work, but how long ago was it that you started doing these offering sacred travel?
Yeah. Well, I'll share a little bit about that. I've been doing sacred journeys as a group leader since 2017. So 2017, we went to Mexico, Teotihuacan, where there's the famous 3 pyramids there that are lined up with the Giza Plateau, the Egyptian pyramids. I had been a participant in sacred journeys to these places since 2003. So I started going with other people on these opportunities to explore fabulous and ancient lands. And then I was in Teo, Mexico, in I think 2014 as my first time there. If I can, I'll share this quick story because it's fascinating how the universe moves us. Yeah. And I sat with a friend of mine in 2014 on top of the moon pyramid and said, we need to do this. This is the next step in the work. We loved traveling with others in the groups, but there was a je ne sais quoi, something that we wanted to bring differently to this work, this ability to travel these sacred sites. It took us 5 years. And I left Teo, Mexico that year with a very challenging exit. Leaving that country, I mean, Teo didn't exactly call me specifically as one of the sites. You know, we all have callings to places like Egypt or India, which you and I have talked about. And I never thought Teo would be a place that I would go to. I ended up being guided to this specific journey, had a massive transformation myself, but left there under a very challenging process of leaving spiritually. And I kind of left Teo saying, I'm never coming back. That will not be the place I go. So when I called up the same friend I sat on the Teo pyramid with and said, we're going to do this, we 5 years later called her and said, you ready? She's like, me too. Where do you want to go? And I'm like, let's go to Teo. And she kind of laughed at me and said, wait a second, you walked out of there 5 years ago and said, I've done my piece here. I've made my shift. I don't need to come back. What is making you want to do that? And I said, you know, it feels like going back to a place that created challenge in me after years of going through the healing process and recognizing the profound shift that happened from that journey. And it took time to understand that profound shift. And I said, this is where we have to begin again. So you never know. Sometimes when you go places and you have experiences and some are amazing and you're like, oh my God, I love that place. Some you go to and it could challenge you. But after processing the energy, we just decided this is where we're going to get started. Yeah. And that's been, you know, almost 5 years ago now, 5-6 years ago.
I mean, you really, I know this about you, right? When you manifest something, you manifest quickly. So you're like, that was 5 years ago. But to me, that's like, you even know like where to begin with something like that. Like you manifested the hell out of that.
Well, you know, when the timing was right to really start the journey, you know, these sacred journeys, I think we just feel the intuitive hit. It was like, it's time. So you pick up the phone, you call. And I think we struggle sometimes going, is it time? Really? Should I? You know, and one thing I've learned about when people, you know, comment about the way I manifest, it's more like learning to answer the phone call when your soul and your intuition is saying, do this.
Right.
And not mull it over. You know, I always say when people like, you manifest a lot, I'm like, great. No, I answer the phone a lot.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And
I love that. Yeah.
So since 2017, I have done 8. I'm about to do 7 and 8, journey 7 and 8. So we've done 6 journeys already, from Mexico to Egypt to Peru and India already. I landed in the United States at the end of one of my last journeys to Egypt in 2020, just in time for the pandemic.
Yeah.
I know. Amazing experience. But we started up and journeying again this year, earlier, as you know, to get the groups back out to these sites and to create profound shifts. So it's an extraordinary part of the work. And I just feel so blessed that the universe keeps opening the doors for it to happen.
Absolutely. It's been really awesome to watch the whole thing evolve for you.
Yeah.
And I see your passion with it, and it's so inspiring.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, man, I would love to go. And it is always, it's just not the time for me to go yet, is what it is, because it's always while I have like school going on, or it would be, you know, I've got 3 kids. So finding someone to anchor down with the kids for that long, and like, but I know that it's coming. And so I'm really, you know, I'll be really excited whenever I get to join you on one. But what would pull someone, like what would kind of draw someone into sacred travel? Like, is it a pull? Is it a draw towards a certain place? Like, how does that start for someone?
So I think the first thing I would even say to answer that question is to start with what is exactly a sacred journey, as opposed to just going to, say, Egypt and seeing the pyramids. When we create sacred journeys, we're creating a specific way of moving through ancient historical lands that have spiritual frequencies and shifts about them. So I'm going to talk about Egypt as the main one, the one I've been to the most, my calling, and I think one that we all can resonate with on some level. Right. You know, when you go to a place like Egypt, you know, you can go to the pyramids, the Sphinx, you know, there's so many temples to different goddesses that we create on these journeys, as well as like the private yacht down the Nile for days, you know, and we're really trying to create intimate group settings where we move through these places in a sacred mentality, an open way, versus, oh my God, here I am at the pyramids, picture, and then off I go. What we do on these sacred journeys is we create a little bit more time and space to explore some of these beautiful spaces, but in a mental space or heart space that's open, that's not just, we allow photos, we say, take your pictures, but to really also connect with the land and find out why you were, say, drawn here to begin with. And when we look at the places I specifically choose to go to, so like I work specifically with Egypt, India, Peru as my dominant places. These are historically ancient and traditional lands.
Yeah.
And you may have a calling in you. And I think for you, Nicole, we've talked a couple times, it's been like India.
Yeah.
You keep saying like, I can't wait to go to India. So
yeah, I'm excited.
Right? So somewhere inside of you, there's a call to this land. There's a call to this place. And here come even the God bumps as we're talking about it. My arms are like, zing. So there must be a part in your soul that has either journeyed into India in the past. It has had profound shift and, aspects there that want your soul is saying, this is the place I need to go. So it's funny when you say you're being called, you'll go eventually. And I'll tell a lot of people like, oh, I really want to go to Egypt, but it's not right now. And I always say, that's fine. I'm going to do these journeys as long as the universe allows. Go when you're called, because you may want to go to a place, but you also want to go at the right time, the time that your soul says, this is the time for me to be there. People can be called on that soul level. So to me, I call that a soul calling, it's like being a medium. As we both know, it's a part in our world that just says, this is the work I'm here to do. And when you feel this calling inside of you, for some people, it can be attracted to ancient aliens. Maybe you've been watching, everybody loves, I have a lot of people on my journeys who have believe in the alien aspect, or they're coming because they're an angelic worker and just feel a connection and know a shift is going to happen. So a lot of people are called to these specific journeys because they want to dive into the energy and create shift in their life. And there's one thing as I feel spoiled about, because when I go to these places, I come back shifted every single time. That's awesome. Even though I've been through Egypt, 4 or 5 times now, it's new for me in so many ways. But to watch people come home after these really beautiful journeys, and the unique thing about these journeys as well is we do our best. Say with Egypt, we create private visits. So you get to go to places like inside the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid, or you get to see the Mother Temple of Isis on at sunrise in the morning by yourself, just our group. So we're also really working hard with a huge team of people to create these private opportunities that the regular tourist doesn't get. When we go to India, we're going to these ancient cities that still have a living, what's what I'm looking for, like a living aspect of their faith still being worshipped and used at the Ganges, for example, for now 4 centuries. So we're going to specific cities in India that are known for their historic spiritual richness that, will create shift. One of the places we go to is Rishikesh, where the Beatles went for their famous, a creative shifting journey that wrote music that we'll live with forever, So you're called because your soul is ready to create shift, to create or connect with a part of your soul that needs to wake up in a way. And the area that you're being called to is there because your soul's saying, this is where I'm going to create that shift. Yeah. So I hope I answered that in a simple.
You totally did.
It's an amazing opportunity to just go deeper with these places, to be in a group of like-minded souls also, who are traveling with you, who create support. We cry, we laugh, we dance, we've had cuddles.
I love it.
Become a small family with each and every journey I've done. And then we have someone I call journey junkies, a few people who have been on repetitive journeys. They just loved these experiences, so they go where they can with me, and I loving journey junkies, I should say. They just love the experience of the shift that each area creates.
I mean, I could see myself turning into one. I imagine Like the only thing that I can kind of compare it to is being at the Arthur Findlay College, and there are certain courses where you just really bond with people and you laugh and you cry. I mean, you're very stationary in that place, but being in a spiritual place like that and making friends with people, and some of them being quite profound friendships, that you can develop there. But do you find it that there's kind of like AFC, like whenever you leave, that there's this period of adjustment afterwards?
Oh, yeah. My motto with a sacred journey, and similar to going to Arthur Findlay, is we both have experience there too. I always say when you come back from these journeys, you're lit up and alive, and you want to throw a bomb in your life and you want to rebuild everything. Yeah. And the motto is don't go home for 3 weeks to a month and just let the energy move through you. Journal, rest, meditate, experience, and then throw the bomb in your life if you feel that's what you want to do. Because we come back so alive that we want to make instant change. But if we move too fast, you might move something that's not ready to, just because you're feeling a massive glow and shift. So these journeys are there to create shift, but you also want to move through it with grace, and let the energy sit within you, so that when you do create change, whether that is, movement, relocation, a job change, people change their jobs, people change their locations, they've changed relationship dynamics because of these journeys. Yeah. But that's why I say, before you go home and get a divorce, sit with it. Yeah. and let the energy process before you make some of these big decisions that may come from a journey, because you live in a glow for what can be months to weeks to a month or more, depending on the journey and the length and its profound shift for you. We do meetings with these groups. When I do my journeys, we start to meet as the group comes together, like 2 months before. There are Zoom calls where we actually start energetic work and preparation. I do a Zoom call usually within 3 weeks to a month after a journey, when people have settled, to then go, how are you doing? How are you processing, bringing the group back together, so that they can continue to talk about the energy too. So it's a supportive process. Yeah. From beginning to end, to help people move through the shift as they need to.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night, try to catch me howling at the moon.
As someone who has journeyed with chronic pain the last few years, I am definitely open to alternative treatments. I don't personally tolerate THC very well, so it's not exactly an option for me. And my experiences with CBD in the past have been disappointing, to say the least. That was until a friend reached out to me one day about the CBD she uses as a part of her daily self-care routine. At first, I admit, I dismissed it due to my other experiences with CBD. However, when we started talking about it and I actually researched the company she recommended a bit more, I was completely game. I cannot recommend Green Compass enough. I use their jellies on a regular basis to help manage pain, which, by the way, has decreased significantly, and fluctuating anxiety levels as a mom to 3 kids. On the days in which I'm feeling super sore from working out or, well, just being alive, I reach for their topical ointment Reduce, and holy crap, you guys, it's amazing at relieving acute pain. Green Compass isn't like any other CBD company out there. They utilize all the science to get the most out of this plant medicine, and well, I've yet to find another company that tops the purity of the plants grown on the Green Compass farms. Go to www.greencompassglobal.com to find out more. And when you're ready to try it for yourself, go to http://nicolebanks.greencompanyglobal.com/share/312081 to get $10 off your first order. And if you're anything like me, you're going to need me to post that in the link below.
I love it.
I love it too. I mean, it changes. It's just like I said, it's a part of this work that when it comes to any kind of healing work that we do, healing retreats, things like that. And I've done, like I said at the beginning, not only am I a spiritual mud and teaching, I've done, everything from sweat lodges to these journeys to week-long retreats and places. I've experienced so many things, but for me, these journeys as a participant were just the biggest things I've ever done. That's why when it felt right to step into them, I was like, I'm ready to do this. And I love traveling. And, one thing I would say too, Nicole, and I think we understand this is, I've been called to this particular work, the sacred work of these sites, since I was a child. Before I even understood what the medium in me was, I was dreaming of the pyramids and the Stonehenge. And, I'd go to school and we'd learn about these places and I'm like, drooling with like, I can't wait to for me, Egypt calls me the loudest first. And of all the places I go, I love Peru and India are up there with that, but Egypt is my home. And it called me, I created a fund of money that I started as a kid that just said, one day I'm going to get to Egypt. And, the other thing the universe provides us is when I kind of made the decision to start doing the journeys as a leader, the guides started showing up, that the people that I needed in these lands to help me do that, because these are big works, we're traveling people to parts of the world. So the teams of people that I needed in these countries and the amazing guides that I have been blessed with started showing up and just saying yes. So I was like, okay.
That's wonderful.
That's the other part of the universe is when the phone rings, answer it,
Right.
So I'm truly blessed that we work with amazing guides who are also published authors and, known in their countries as, just really sound guides and spiritual leaders in their own right. So, just
That's
very
great.
blessed for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a place that you want to go that you haven't yet?
That's a good one. That's a really good one. There's so many. Easter Island. Island. I don't know why. I don't know if I'll ever do group journeys there. A lot of places, when they call me, I tend to go first as a seeker before I decide if it's going to be a place I journey groups to. And Easter Island, with the Moai, those big face statues that look up to the sky. It's been calling me for a few years. And I think the next time I do a Peru journey, I'm just going to have to extend and pop over there and check it out. Cause
that would be super, super cool. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, but that one right now is just been screaming at me. Belize is another one. I feel like every time I feel Belize and my heart keeps calling me. And just when I think that I'm going to go there, then a different journey opportunity pops up and this one happens instead. So I'm like, okay, Belize, when you're ready, I'll come to you, but you gotta gel in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Cool. So I know that we have like our friendship talks about your travels. So I want to be mindful, but like, what are some really just badass, cool stories that you feel comfortable sharing about like some of the spiritual experiences you've had?
Yeah. I think a universal one that happens a lot is when we walk in these sacred ways, magic happens anyway. And while we have a scheduled itinerary of places we want to see, there's always a little window of something unique that pops up in a journey that says, we're going to sneak you into here. And so there's been a couple times in Egypt when we have literally had doors open where we can get into certain areas, like underneath a temple one time. time of Hathor, they're able to get us into these catacombs where, you know, as a group, it's just like, come on, move as one, and we get to go down in here. And India was amazing. The first time I went there, I mean, you know, this as a personal friend of mine, you know, this is where they have changed my life. One of the most profound things that happened to me was the first time I went to India as a seeker. I met my husband, my now husband, and now he's a guide. He is the guide, and now he helps me guide my journeys. So that's always a little fun surprise. You know, I had no idea that I was going to encounter that. So these are like, you know, some of the weird, simple things that can happen. Now everybody's going to sign up for my journeys because they want to look for a partner. They think they're going to be one. Can't guarantee it. I just got lucky.
Get yourself a partner.
But we've had these, you know, really luscious moments where the whole group is in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid, and the lights go down. You know, we've climbed up in, and we start to, you know, create a ceremony and chant. And the acoustics, for example, in the Great Pyramid, you can sing awful, and the minute we all start toning, it just has this way of creating a harmonic explosion of sound. So when we're in there, we often do a lot of chanting and toning that really kind of like, woo. You know, in Peru, we've explored plant medicines like ayahuasca, and I've had many profound shifts there. And it just pops up on the journey. Okay, here's a great shaman that's going to do ayahuasca if you guys want it, who's in, and you know, people will raise their hand, and that has transformed me as well to create more future journeys based on plant medicine. Yeah. So these journeys create shift within us, but are also creating shift within me to create new focuses to go to these places. Yeah. My ultimate favorite place in the world is seeing Sekhmet. As you know, I love her. I'm probably wearing her somewhere here on my neck. Sekhmet is a lioness goddess, and there's a statue of hers in Karnak, the largest temple in Egypt. And it's this little tiny stone building, and she's in there, this beautiful, you know, statue. And we sneak in because it's not something you can easily get into. Again, the group, we work magic to make this in, but we get to sneak in there for a few minutes, and they shut the door, and we stand around this statue of her, and the light comes through the little hole, and it lights her up in the way. And everybody, I'm blown away, because when everybody stands in front of her, they see her come alive. And she is called the living statue.
Chills. Yeah.
And we will chant, you know, there's this wonderful chant, the Sa Sekhem Sahu. Sa is your life, your heart center. Sekhem, your power, your Ka, your Chi. And Sahu is activate. So you're chanting this beautiful activating chant, and she's just like coming out at everybody, and they're all like in tears, and you know, they feel seen. Yeah. And it's these little magic moments that, you know, again, goosebumps and tears even as I talk about it, because that's my favorite place to bring people to. You can't even understand until you stand in front of the simplest of places, and everybody comes out of that room like, oh my God, you know, wet with tears, but in just such a profound and seen way. So these are some of the little magical things that happen, you know, in India, when we're at these, you know, sacred river ceremonies, we get to often meet a real sadhu, and not a famous, rich guru, but a sadhu that just sits by the water and just for no money, no nothing, blesses you and gives you energy. And you just little profound effects, right? Yeah. We've connected with elephants, you know, that just kind of hug and embrace you. And
I love that.
India brings a whole different world to you that's still alive. And the culture there itself is almost a magical blessing. Yeah. So, you know, to name a few, there's so many, if I go down each journey, there's so many. But I definitely, you know, climbing pyramids, and just having groups at the top for an activation prayer. You know, we've had moments in Peru where the sun, I mean, some of the pictures I post on Instagram, you may see the glow around the sun and the stuff, and that happens when we do energy work in Peru. You know, just profound.
Yeah. I mean, I'm lucky enough that I see those pictures, and it is profound, and it's almost palpable. Yeah. I was like, did I say that right? In the pictures, just how intense the energy is, and it just transfers through those through those pictures, I can only imagine what it is like there and how moving it is to the soul to be with a group of like-minded people experiencing that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think you are someone who makes beautiful space for that vulnerability for people to express that aspect of themselves. And that's something that also transmutes through, you know, through those pictures, is that people feel very comfortable in your space, in your energy, and you provide as a guide, you know, as someone who leads these groups. And, you know, of course I'm observing, but I also know you as a human being. And I know that I don't think I would travel with anybody else. I think you would be someone that you just have this way about you that allows people to be where they're at and express. And so kudos for you, you know, to you for being able to hold that space for others, because I can imagine, I mean, you're tired, you're moving around a lot, but you always seem to hold just this beautiful space, you know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, you know, when we do, and having participated in journeys, you know, I'm sure when people even go on mine, there's things that they love and things I can improve upon always, you know, we're always trying to improve. But in having been a journeyer on other journeys with other leaders in a spiritual mindset, there's definitely things I too have loved and experienced, and things that I thought, well, maybe I might do that a little differently to hold space, you know, never in judgment, because everybody's doing as a leader what they should in that moment. But for me, in designing, having participated, I wanted to take what I thought, you know, I would appreciate in a journey. And that is just that, a space where I am led to these opportunities, but also giving space to free flow a little bit at the same time. So while there's a structure and there are, you know, specific timings that we get to certain places to create ceremony, there's also a lot of space to breathe. A lot of space to be in your space, to feel. And, you know, there's also a permission that has to happen within everybody of the group that often is laid out before that, you know, if someone's crying, you let them have it, you know, don't run in, stop and you know, prevent, just be the witness and support as needed. So I'm grateful because the universe has blessed me with amazing people to journey with, not just my leading support, but the other people who come onto these journeys open and crack and shift and take care of each other. And we keep these groups a specific size, you know, I could start leading 50 to 100 people groups if I wanted. I will not. I keep them to about 20 at most, to create this personal opportunity to move with them. If you become a number and you're just seeing me at lunch and dinner and having a guide move you through, I feel like you're losing the benefit of why. So I specifically keep a number at a size that I know I can work with as well. So I can move with the group, you know, almost 100% of the time. So
that's beautiful and important, I think. And I think it is important to bring up the fact that, you know, the others that are called to be a part of the group, the fact that they, you know, they kind of follow your example of holding space for others, I think is really, really important, because a group could make or break an experience for sure. But,
100%.
You know, I think it's beautiful that you, you know, I don't know that you intentionally do this because I'm not you, but you attract, you know, you set kind of the tone for how it's going to be, and that's who shows up. And I think that's so important, you know. So I'm highly impressed by all of it, if that matters.
I mean, it's funny that you say that, because I look back now as we're getting ready to move out to Egypt and India here in the next few months again. And having gotten back to it, was really tough last year in 2020 to go through the pandemic and go through that space. I am grateful for the other side of the work of mediumship, which just gave me a platform to still, you know, function. But there was a part of me that was like, oh my God, we just, you know, the timing of things, Brandy, when you, Nicole, I'm sorry, when you still
No, you're fine. You're good.
is amazing, because I look at this way. I got a group into Egypt in the beginning of February 2020. We got through as COVID is being announced. We did this amazing journey. One of the best. I mean, all of my journey families are amazing, but these guys were so bonded. Like we were on a mission we didn't understand.
Yeah.
We were one of the last few groups to get into the King's Chamber before the world locked down for a while. And I look at that timing and I go, holy bonkers,
Yeah, I remember being like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Are they going to be okay? Are they going to get home?
We were great, but this is the magic of one thing I've learned is I put out, when he's selling a journey like this too, it's, I don't hard pressure sale anyone. If people are thinking about it, but they don't buy in, I'm like, that's fine. Go when you're ready, because I have to trust that the universe is putting together the right group for each moment. And so we left there, or we got into Egypt on February 2nd, 2020. That was the last journey until this year when the group we went back to Egypt. It was in my soul. I even tried to put a Peru journey in sooner, and I kind of felt my intuitions going, no, Egypt, it's full circle, Lauren. You got to go to Egypt first. And that Peru journey ended up being moved. So we ended the 2022 journey on February 2nd. So talk about a full circle moment, right? We leave February 2nd, 2020. We go in February 2nd, 2020. We leave February 2nd, 2022. So there's a part of me that's just going, I can't argue with the universe. And even the group that went in this year, for example, the February group of this year for Egypt was, God bless them. We sold the journey last July, everything was looking good. Omicron hit, COVID was running high, and they still wanted to go. I remember checking in with them going, what are we doing, guys? And everyone's like, I want to go. I want to get there.
Yeah.
And, it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust that this group is here to do the work. And they were committed to it. And we ended up having a really great, powerful journey. It's interesting to see the world now post-pandemic. I mean, Egypt is gone through a lot of changes, and while they weren't up to full capacity of tourism, you can start to see it rebuilding, but it's different now. So the work that we're doing, and this alludes to when we do the sacred journeys, yes, you are going to go through a change and shift, but as a group, we are moving planetary energy as well. I really believe that we're creating planetary shift and healing on a certain level. And that's why the groups are coming at the times that they're falling into and having these, strategic shifts of even coincidental timing. So I really learned to trust in that, and, to just feel blessed that the work continues with these journeys this way. So it's a tribute to the group of people who go, that you go when you're called, do not push or press, don't force, go when you know that timing is right. I've learned to trust the universe and say that the people who sign up are the ones who are meant to be on this group.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
How do you feel, if it does, how do you feel like your mediumship also kind of shows up in sacred training?
All the time. It's a different kind of mediumship, if I can say that. This is stepping into, I actually do some programming on the journey, where we may sit, do a trance demonstration. We've done trance on the Nile. We've done trance with Tony Stockwell on the Ganges, So
how powerful, right?
The magical moments when Tony did trance on full moon and Rishikesh on the Ganges in January, it rained sideways.
I remember about that, and I was like, how did I miss that?
And it wasn't even monsoon season, And the other thing is I do, and stay tuned, because I know that Tony and I keep, dancing around new India dates. So we'll eventually recreate something like that again together. But the other thing is picking colleagues. Some I do on my own, some I'm bringing in. I worked with some friends of mine, some shamanic friends of mine, Tony, folks that we both know. And I'm talking with other people who may want to team up and do some of these, is, creating a little bit of that teaching aspect.
Yeah.
So mediumship mediumship comes in as sometimes just I'm doing a dem. I've done a dem on the boat where I'm just delivering messages. I use it as the guide to trust the intuition of what needs to happen in each moment.
Right.
If I'm doing creating a ceremony in a certain place, I'm trusting the intuition at moment, what this group needs, and utilizing my kind of abilities that way.
Yeah.
They also guide me with the group, as we're moving people through. I'm tuning into you to find out, where do I think you're going to have a shift, and what do I need to be aware of? Sometimes I'm what I call energetically watching you, and learning to move and let my intuition guide me as to how to help you move through. Do we need to sit and talk about something? Do I need to make you aware that this temple might be powerful for you? And a lot of times I call the people in the group to step up somewhere. So I may, you might be on in Egypt with me, and I might say to you, Nicole, okay, we're here at Sekhmet. I'm going to put you right in the middle and in the front, and you're going to become the energy of that,
Yeah.
So, my mediumship abilities and the connection of intuition is a heavy tool in this work, because it does allow me in moments to go, this person needs this here.
Yeah.
I was walking with somebody into the Horus temple, and I could feel it in my bones as we're talking. And I just said, you better be grounded when we walk through this temple, because this one's for you. And afterwards he came up to me and he was like, oh my God.
I love it.
That's the other thing is, people, when they travel to a place like Egypt or India, they think, I often say with my Egypt group, you think you're coming here for the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids, because that's what but we go to about 8 different temples as well, to different deities. And until we get into that part, that's when people start going, I had no idea this was going to affect me this way, or I had no idea I'd be connected to Hathor or Osiris, and so when you get into that, they have these profound moments where they're like, okay, the Sphinx was amazing, but holy God, when I got here, and my head starts to chill as we talk about that. There's that unexpected part. So I'm trusting my intuition all the time in this journey. If someone's having a struggle and I'm sensing something, being aware of that. It's a profound part of the work in so many ways.
And it's not like you can necessarily sever that from you. I mean, it helps.
Right.
It makes up who you are. It's a part of who you are. And I love that you're tuned into, the group and the individuals within the group. And that's really awesome. So just to wrap it up a little bit, you may have already kind of answered this question, but I want to ask you again, how has this transformed your spirituality?
I might get emotional on this one today.
Okay.
Nicole, I don't know why, but this has what journeying to these sacred lands, and again, I speak of all Peru, especially Peru, Egypt, and India, the ones I've done the most. You've got everything from the Incan traditions of shamanic practice in Peru, to the old alchemical magic that lives in Egypt, to the living Hindu and Buddhist faith of chanting and divine connection that lives in India, right? 3 amazing, goosebumpy, as we're sitting here talking, amazing ways of connecting to the divine. And in a world where we speak of spirituality right now in this year, and we've seen it in the last 2 years, it's been a very difficult 2 years for us, I think. And how do we sit in spirituality? We're seeing changes in mentality and a lot of heightened things. And what I've learned through these journeys is that all faiths lead to the road of love. There is not one way of living out there that at the core, and here's where I get emotional about it, that is all trying to teach an aspect of how to love. And it has taught me less judgment of I need to be practicing this way, or I must have only this practice, and allowing myself to be that spiritual nut, to be the one who can see it all for the beauty that it lives, and to recognize that if I don't judge the journey that you're on, for you to get to that place of love, then go have and explore that, right? And when we're experiencing these places, I mean, Egypt is I always see Egypt's older religion, the polytheistic, ways that used to live with these temples is dead. But what lives there now that we witness is, there's Christianity, there's, Judaism, there's Muslim faiths that live there still very alive. And we even go to some of those, or we go to old mosques and old synagogues, and the place where the Holy Family was considered to have lived after Jesus was born. We see all of these places and bring you through these old ancient buildings that have different religious aspects about them, so that you can feel into the energy of love that exists when you walk into these ancient holy places, right? It's the same thing in India. There's a devotion that comes from going through India that you will never learn in any other country. They are the most devoted to their faith I have ever seen. And it's joyful. I mean, Hinduism is joyful, colorful, prayer. And it just, so how has it changed me spiritually? It has made me, as it's a practice, so I'm not perfect, but I feel less judgment of your journey, and more supportive of you just seeking love, in the way that you need to find that connection. And we talk about relationship love. I'm talking about divine love and standing in your divine truth. And sometimes touching a part of your soul with a place that probably has been a soul connection for you can help you remember a touch of that divine love. Does that?
That's so good. I love it.
And it's important to know with people who do these journeys with me that I'm going through the journey too. So even though I'm leading you, and in most of these places, I've been there a few times now. And even though I know my way around and I'm leading you, every single time I do a journey, something new is moving for me. So I love to show the vulnerability of, I might cry for a second, guys, because I'm now touching a new level of love, or connecting in a place that I didn't, connect with this way before when I was here. And allowing myself.
I'm like over here trying not to cry.
To help people unfold that, right? We are stuck in this world, and I think we're both emotional because of spiritual people who have been journeying through it for a long time. It hurts me to see some of the delusion that has risen up in our world. And it's become a new profound mission for me to create real-time, realistic spiritual connections that people can manage on their own. So I guide you. I will never own you on this journey. This is your experience, right? So and I think that's why we have some of the people who come back to these journeys after time. They recognize, like, this shifted me this way, and then they go on another journey and they're like, oh, this one shifted me this way.
That it's not the same experience every time you go. There's always more.
Always more. I work with Sekhmet a lot, as we said before, and I was blown away when I went to Egypt this year, because Hathor's energy, the goddess of joy, love, and wisdom, was screaming loud. And I've been to Dendara's temples, a gorgeous temple, 4 times, and I walked into it this year, and I went, oh, okay, you're shaking my ground this time, Hathor. What's going on? And these things also bring back teachings that I use in my guided meditations and stuff to bring to people, like the cosmic breath I did recently. It's a whole impression I got by a glyph that I saw on the ceiling of a temple. And I went, oh, this is an amazing breathing technique. And I've seen this in my favorite hieroglyph. I mean, I love it. It's in Hathor's temple. You've seen me post it many times. It's the goddess Nut, and she's taking in the moon and birthing the sun and having the cosmic life happen. I'm like, if we learn to breathe in the moon and birth the sun. So it took me 4 journeys, Nicole, to get to that epiphany.
But you got it, right?
But that's the beauty of why I say these journeys change me that way, that I've learned that every time I go, something different is going to stand out and create shift. So yeah, me and my long-winded answers.
No, I love it. I love it. So if people wanted to look more into a sacred journey with you, how do they go about that?
LaurenRainbow.com. There is currently 2 journeys happening right now. We have Egypt happening in November of 2022 here with a Jordan Petra extension this time. Woohoo! So I'm adding something new. And we have a small handful left of spots. That one is going to fill up and closes in a month and a half. So if you're listening to the podcast, sign up, go check it out. India will be happening in January of 2023 with an extension. I'm doing little extensions to these journeys.
Like
they're growing more. We're going to do an extension to Nepal on this one. So we're going to experience all holy cities in India, the Taj Mahal, and we'll take people to Nepal. So they can learn at laurenrainbow.com. If you go under my calendar task, there'll be some on the front page, but you can click through to my events and see them listed there. Also on my socials. So there's information on my Facebook page, Lauren Rainbow Medium, and my Instagram at Lauren Rainbow Medium.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today. It is always a joy to talk to you. I'm really excited to share you with our little brood of listeners and have them get to know you. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me talk about this amazing opportunity to share a little bit about these journeys with folks who are interested, because I just love it.
Pleasure. It's my pleasure. It really is. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have a newsletter. What? Yes, we have a newsletter, and we would love it if you would sign up for it. Why would you do such a thing? Well, I'm glad you asked. Every week, you'll get the latest episode sent to your inbox, so it makes listening just a tiny bit easier. Go to spiritualbanks.com, when it's convenient for you, of course, and sign up. Love you guys. If you want to learn more about Lauren and sacred travel, mediumship, or anything else about all the light that Lauren has to offer, head on over to www.laurenrainbow.com. You guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found it, at the very least, intriguing. If you liked this episode, please feel free to subscribe to the Spiritual Banks podcast, wherever it is that you might be listening. Also, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We would love for you to give us a like or a follow. As always, we appreciate any time you share the Spiritual Banks podcast, and if you'd like, please take a moment to give us a review. Until next time, we hope you know that the universe loves you, Spirit loves you, and that we love you. Have a good week.